Good evening. This is the umpteenth annual Candidates Night. I was going to go back and look, but it was going to take too long, so I didn't. First of all, we want you to know that we are being filmed, and it is live streaming. The people who are watching at home will be able to send in questions on the internet. When a question comes in, Dutch, who's in charge of the filming, will wave and say he's got a question from the balcony. If there is anyone here, for instance, in the witness protection program that does not want their face to be filmed, I suggest you sit behind the cameras. Otherwise, we will be going forward. I have a note from the office asking me to announce the annual meeting on April 1st here in the Burger Center. On April 2nd, the ballot counting will be done at the West Rec. They are generally through 11:30 to noon. And at 2 o'clock, the new board will be seated and have their reorganization meeting. The next day, April 3rd, there will be a board training session at the East Rec, which will be open to all our residents if you are so interested. As many of you know, due to a last-minute glitch, the instruction sheet on the green piece of paper that went out with the ballots had a paragraph that said vote for 3 instead of 4. The office caught it after the mailing Friday and sent out a notification that the ballot is correct, which says vote for up to 4. They have also sent out today a notification to those people who voted early, in other words, the last couple of days, that if they wanted to vote for 4 and only voted for 3 because of what they read on the green sheet, that they may come in, get a new ballot, and watch their original ballot be destroyed. That is the only thing that we are going to do. We have talked to legal counsel. This will take care of the problem. This is really a question session for our board candidates. And I want to throw out a couple ground rules. One, we will allow no statements from the audience. You may only ask questions. If you make a statement, you will be gavelled out of order and told to sit down. The same thing will happen if you attack anyone personally. You will be asked to sit. You will be completely out of order. So this will not happen, and I'm bigger than most of you. Now, in no particular order, I will introduce the candidates. And if they'll wave their arm when I give you names so you can see who's who.
That maybe you don't know.
I think I know them all. Herm F. There's Herm on the end. John Taylor. John's on the other end. John Felton. Fran Diaz. Yep, you and Hugh Helm. This is the 7th and last year that I will have anything to do with the nominating committee.
Don't get yourself.
And I didn't want to do it this year, but we got down to the deadline in October, and the board could not find anybody willing to even serve on the committee, much less chair it. So after a couple of days of thought, I agreed to do it. By our articles of incorporation, we need 2 more people to run, and there are offices available. So there are 4 board members to be elected. We needed 6 people. I got commitments from the last 2 one day before the February 1st deadline. It was like pulling teeth out there. We've got 4,400 residents, and we have 6 who are willing to run for the board, which I find almost disgusting. We have a lot of people that serve on our committees, both standing and ad hoc committees, that do things for Oakmont in organizations such as the drivers, etc. But we really need people to volunteer to put in a couple of years on the board. So think about it next year, please. And one other thing I wanted to mention, that our 6 candidates between them have 78 years of residence in Oakmont. So they're not new people. They've been here a while. It's an average of 13 years each. They've been here a while. They know what's going on. They know what needs to go on. And I applaud them for stepping forward. Now we have, thank you. We have, we're not going to bore you with a lot of talk from up here. We're here for your questions. But each candidate will have a few minutes to make a opening statement, and they're going in the order in which I pull a name out of my pocket. And we start with John Taylor. John?
Thank you, Wally. Since I'm the first one that came out of your pocket, I think on behalf of all of us, we'd like to thank you and your committee, Wally, for the work that you did, the screening and the soliciting. And I think we all hope that you passed muster on us effectively, and that we measure up to your expectations as well as the community's. When I came into the auditorium tonight and noticed the activity going on over there in the fireside room, I had a flashback to 1988, which was the first time my wife and I came to Oakmont. We were interested in the possibility of moving from Menlo Park to a new home to be built in Oakmont. But the real estate market was really hot, and we learned it was necessary to literally stand in line in order to be available for the grand opening sale. So I drove up here on a Thursday evening and found myself only able to claim the 16th spot in a lineup that turned out to be 25 people who all rolled out their sleeping bags on the floor in the fireside room, ready to get up the next morning to go across to the Gallagher offices to sign up for the house that we wanted on a new homeowner association property to be developed called Seenbrook Circle. But let me go back a little bit. After my enlisted stint in the Navy, Joanne and I settled in Berkeley. I finished my degree at Cal and began a career with Pacific Telephone, working on a wide variety of management assignments that led to retirement in December of 1983. After some post-retirement travel, we opened a small business called The Tailored Frame, specializing in fine art framing services for private collectors. In August 1989, the house that I'd slept in the fireside room to sign up for was completed, and we moved into the new Seenbrook Circle group of 49 houses and I became chairman of the new Homeowners Association. I also became a driver in the Volunteer Helpers Group, and later its president, followed by chairing the OVA's multi-year transit study project, which successfully brought a unique bus service here to Oakmont, which we all enjoy and still operating. We've been active in several clubs, worked in many committees. Joanne loved the activities of visual aids workshop until health problems limited her participation. Starting in 2004, I chaired the hard-working long-range planning and new construction committee. We led OVA's research and development activities for remodel and expansion of the central, east, and west facilities. We also enjoyed recommending the first OVA audio-visual facility improvements, which were approved by the board and first installed at the East Recreation Center under the careful project management efforts of Mel Ruiz. Then in 2009, culminating OVA's 4-year facility upgrade work, I was a member of the Landscape Improvement Committee, chaired so well by Lori Day, and thus became project manager for lighting improvements at the West Recreation Center parking lots and pathways. As part of an OVA board this year, I would try to nurture a friendly, neighborly homeowner culture, avoiding wherever possible corporate ambiguity, stiffness, and legal nitpicking. As a director, I would try to strengthen our wonderful spirit of creative, resourceful, hands-on volunteer leadership through openness and candor, and by reaching out for resident input and involvement in all of OVA's deliberations and activities. I'd like to be part of a board focused on earning members' confidence while providing informed, thoughtful leadership. So I volunteered to be a candidate. I appreciate your vote.
Thank you, John. Next name out of the hat is Hugh Helm.
Good evening, everyone. I live on in Meadow Creek. Excuse me. Can you hear me? I live in Meadow Creek on Stonebridge Road. I've lived in Oakmont for 14 years. My background briefly is I'm from Ohio, and like Herm and like Dave Johnson, I was in the 1st Marine Division, except they were in a different war than I was. After which I went on to Georgetown Law School and practiced law for many years. Some years in Ohio, and then about 30 years here in California, and the last, most of those here in Santa Rosa, and I'm an employment and business attorney, okay? So my partner is Christine Engel, is a retired sales representative from Development Publishing. She is retired also now and spends her time birding and being a docent at the Laguna de Santa Rosa Foundation. My activities since I've retired have been primarily to volunteer. I'm a docent and steward at Bouverie Preserve. I'm a docent at the Laguna de Santa Rosa Foundation, as well as on its board. I was its president last year. And I'm also involved with the Sonoma Land Trust as a land steward and help monitor their properties to make sure they're in compliance with all the easements. So the environment's been a big part of what I've been interested in lately. But I ran for and allowed Wally to talk me into running, and thank you, Wally, by the way, for all your hard work, because I was concerned that my preference is the way this organization operates is in as relaxed and as friendly and as open a mode as possible. And that's what I would like to bring to this organization. I really would like to see this organization and its governance operate based on democratic principles. I think that the input from the membership is the key to everything that we do. I think members of the board are servants of you folks and not your overlords, and that we have to operate on principles of inclusion, trying to bring everybody into the decision-making process, getting involved, so we have your input as well as your active involvement in terms of committees. So another issue I want to see more of is transparency. I really think that there should be, all meetings should be conducted with agendas that are for which the proper notice has been given, that the people will have an opportunity to know what's going to happen, and that they will have an opportunity for input before the board takes any action. Transparency in the manner in which the meetings are conducted, so that they're as open as possible. I don't think there should be any closed meetings in this organization unless they're required by law, for example. So once I was motivated on those grounds to get involved, I began to look at the financial situation here, and I think that currently we're in sound good condition, but I think we have a lot of projects on the board, and a lot of expenses facing this organization that requires some very careful thought and some very prudent decision-making to make sure that we're doing what's necessary and prudent and only doing what's necessary for the benefit of the membership and not anything else. I just want to maintain the fiscal soundness of this place and keep our dues at the minimum that they have been for so many years. So I volunteered to run, and I'd like the opportunity to serve to you, so I look forward to your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh. Next will be Francis Diaz.
Good evening. You know, when Wally said that he was having a hard time finding people to run, I got to thinking the first time that I ran for public office was in 1937. So that would give you some idea of how far down he had to reach anyway before he found people to run. I have been here only 3 years, but certainly enjoy it and admire what has been done up to this time. I do feel, and I have felt, and you can understand why, it's very important that our organization here be like a city organization, like a city council. The city provides for us certain facilities and services which we cannot possibly duplicate here for 44,400. Is that what you said? My memory's coming back. And we need to talk to them about things that are common to the whole area. And we have to talk to them in the same vocabulary that they use. Consequently, I'm hoping for closer relationships with the city itself, and also in the organization that we have here in Oakmont. I really have felt that with regard to my own liking and desire for more government experience, that my time here in Santa Rosa, coming up from Palo Alto, was well spent, and I have enjoyed it immensely. My job, actually, was regional director of the Civil Preparedness Office, which was part of the Defense Department in Washington, D.C. And I was responsible for the 5 western states plus the Pacific, islands, etc. It was a marvelous opportunity prior to going to Washington, D.C. and working there. I really feel, going back to my 1937 experience, that once you instill in a child a love of government, an understanding of the wonderful privileges and opportunities they have in a country, it stays with them. And it certainly was the case in my case. I do have a couple of things that I really would like to see happen here in Oakmont. Number one, in addition to functioning like a city government, I would like to see the committees here have more responsibility and prestige. I have met so many of the committee chairmen who work here for Oakmont. And I'm amazed at the kind of knowledge and experience that they have. And they should be able to come directly to the board with their problems, their projects, anything that they feel will make Oakmont better. That is not happening today. Often committees flounder a little bit off on their own, and some move ahead. But some projects take an eon of time. I also feel that in addition to the committees, I would like to see the establishment, should I say, of open sessions of the council, board. I get used to using the other terminology, so that we have work sessions maybe twice a month in between council meetings. At work sessions, it would be open to the public where they could really express their ideas as well as ask questions. And I know from experience that even the committees members need a work session where they can speak their mind and ask questions without feeling like you were an idiot. And we've never had work sessions here that the general public knows about. But I guarantee you that if we'd have more input from the public, and I think a better feeling of being a part of the organization here in Oakmont. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fran. The next up will be John Felton.
Good evening, everybody. Let me first say that when you come to the question session, you're all safe. Let me explain. This is a relatively dark room. When you're sitting up here with a light shining in your face, you can't see anybody else's face. So whatever you say, there can't be any retribution, as we can't identify you. My name is John Felton. I'm 69 years old. I've lived in Oakmont since 2001. I grew up in San Francisco, third generation California, Navy veteran. Naval intelligence, as a matter of fact. I know some of you think that may be a misnomer. Kind of like postal service. But we moved here in 2010 to take care of my dad. He passed away in 2004, and sadly my wife passed away 2.5 years ago. I'm a retired electronic engineer. I worked for a number of companies long-term here in the Bay Area. Then I moved to Texas, and I was there 23 years. That gave me a little different perspective. Please don't hold it against me. We came back and I retired in 2005. As soon as I got back, I decided I was going to keep myself busy, and as many of you are retired, I'm certain after you retire, you get busier than you were before you were working. It's hard to say no when someone asks you for help, and I enjoy my enjoyment comes from helping other people. I joined volunteers with the state parks here locally, the 3 state parks, and primarily at Jack London State Park. I'm a docent there. I've been in it for more than 10 years. And I serve with the board of directors of the Valley of the Moon Natural History Association, working toward our final point where we were able to get a 5-year contract with the state so that we operate the park independently. And I feel very good about that. Just a show of hands, how many people use the state parks right around here? Great. I'm going to divert for just a moment. One of the goals I've got, and I don't know if it's possible, but I'd like to revisit the problem we had where we ended up closing this trail over into Annandale State Park. I think we could have done a better job, and my own personal belief is I don't think that door's closed. I'd like to go back and revisit that and see if we can get it back open again. I can't promise anything, but that's one of my goals. Fran and all the tenants that came before me, you know, already said a lot of what I was going to say. I feel like we're kind of in agreement on many things already, so that's kind of exciting. One of my concerns is I guess I would consider myself socially liberal and fiscally conservative. When it comes to the fiscally conservative part, let me explain. I think all of us here in Oakmont have really felt the bind since the economy turned around and went in the tank for a while, and hopefully it's coming back. You know, interest rates being lower are great for mortgages, but they're sure not so great when you're trying to live off that nest egg you've tried to grow the whole time you're working and to make things ends meet now. And for that reason, I'm pretty tight-fisted and really take a look at expenses. I believe in spending money for things that really make a difference. I have to ask myself, are we doing this to make it look pretty, or are we really improving the return on our investment we have in our community here in Oakmont? So I give everything a second and third look. One of the things that I understand in the past, I haven't been able to attend a lot of board meetings in the past, but as I understand it, many times the goals that were selected were pretty much chosen by the board of directors and then sent out to the public and said, this is what we're going to do. I think it's kind of backwards. I think what the board needs to do is reach out to y'all. Oh, there's a Texas word popped out. I'm sorry. Reach out to you and find out what it is you want, and then tailor our response to be able to accommodate some of the things that you're asking for. Obviously, we can't do everything. But I'd rather hear from you, and I think the board would, the new board, what you want, so that we can tailor our response to the needs of the community and not just the whims of a few of the members. It was mentioned earlier about committees. I think we need to restructure the way we do things there and give the committees a freer hand. You know, as volunteers, you don't get paid real well. I think that's the definition of things. And we have some great people and some great skills. And it's very important that the board support those groups. And that they're not there to support us. We're there to support them. And with, you know, too much oversight and these kinds of things go on, it tends to stifle initiative. You kind of get turned off and ask yourself, I'm volunteering, why am I doing this, you know? You want to feel like something's being accomplished. And Fran mentioned that earlier, and I really feel very strongly about that. And the other thing is, the board needs to work hand in hand with the management team here. You got some great people, some people have been here a long time, but it needs improvement, I think. And I think I want to end on one thought. And then, and since I've been here in the last 11 years, is I've really felt that there's a disconnect between previous boards and the rest of us that live here. I felt that transparency was sometimes really not there. And I felt that sometimes things were going on that kind of sneaked in the back door, and that really bothers me. And so one of the goals that I think, and I'd like to bring to the board, and what I hear from the other candidates, whoever is elected, is that we really need to work very hard to restore the confidence of the board as we serve you. And that's about how I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you.
Next will be Herm Hess.
Good evening. Wally, I want to thank you for all your efforts in getting this put together and getting this organized. And I appreciate everyone coming here tonight. Some of you may have heard that if I'm elected, that I'd only serve a short term. That came about because of discussions we're having with regard to hearing deficiency. And all of that took place before I learned that the auditorium here in the Burger Center is equipped with the loop which was installed by Kenwood Audio. That brings my hearing capabilities up to about 70% of norm, which should suffice for what our needs are. I bring probably 15 years of Oakmont organization experience to this arrangement. I had 12 years as the co-chair of the Oakmont Property Development Committee. I had 2 years as vice president of the Oakmont Property Owners Association. And this kind of activity, I think, prepares me for knowing what it is that makes Oakmont work and how we work together as a community. One of the things I think that we need to take a look at is what lies ahead for Oakmont. And I'm thinking in the area of development. We have the 14.7 acres that exist around the old gas station that is currently being looked at by the Hunter Group. There is the property northwest of us, commonly called El Nokia. And then there is the property directly across from Oakmont, Highway 12, which is county property and is being developed with wineries and et cetera. That being the case, I think if you want these areas to be developed to your likes, we in our board have to become very much in tune with the city council and also the county supervisor. When I was with the OPDC, there was hardly ever a meeting that we held that we did not have one of the mayor or the vice mayor in attendance. And this would have been Mike Martini, Bob Blanchard, and Jane Bender. And developers would come to Santa Rosa Planning Commission and make application for a particular project they wanted to develop. And they were told, before you process this, or we process it, you need to go out to Oakmont and find out what the OPDC would like to have. And what we did in the OPDC was we conducted a survey throughout the community. We had the survey printed up in the Oakmont News, and that way we were able to learn what it was the community wanted. So having established that, we then went to the city council and told them we have 4,500 votes in Oakmont, and we think you should get involved. And that's why they started coming to our meetings, and it turned out to be a very good thing. We had tremendous rapport. They listened to what we wanted. In conclusion, I think the new board must establish a high level of trust and visibility. No secret meetings behind the closed doors, and obtain approvals and authorizations from the community as required. Eliminate surprises that just may result in unwanted dues increases. Thank you again for your attention, and I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you, Harry. And last but certainly not least is our hardworking FAU.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for attending the Candidates Forum. Can I be heard? As I stand before you tonight, I am extremely humble, proud, and grateful. I love America. I love Obama and the First Lady. And I'm about as liberal as they are. Except for the respect of fiscal matters, I'd probably look more like Mike Thompson, the blue dog, and your representative. By the way, this presentation is a PowerPoint presentation, but we took the power away from it, but it's still a good presentation. I'll kind of dispense with the bio that was in the newspaper. I'll certainly answer any question you might have. It basically states how my wife and I got here, and also that she passed away a couple, 2.5 years ago. Bless her. My career was all in IT. I started in IT in 1961. It's fairly early. And I'm still kind of keeping up. I work with Gary and Dutch, and I think we are a pretty fair team. When I learned to program, I kind of was just a quiet mouse and did my thing and obeyed my manager. But then I was promoted, and I got more responsibility, and I became chief programmer, systems manager, MIS manager, and I worked for, industrial companies, mostly in California. And there's a long list of them. You may not know them, but they were Bell and Howell, Kaiser Aluminum, and FMC and so forth. I ended with guitar chocolate. 17 years with guitar chocolate. What a love. That was so much fun. When I got there in '87, they didn't even own a computer. I had just closed my independent consulting shop, and I brought my computers to Guitar Chocolate. Then it was my job to really mechanize Guitar Chocolate, and we did, with respect to IT. Qualifications, I've kind of listed them. I've done this sort of thing before in Orenda. I've served on OVA committees, finance, the movies at Oakmont, and I guess a rewrite of the GEPS policy. I am experienced in implementing IT. After Marie Antoinette passed away, people said, get involved. So I did get involved. I'm in the dance club, in the garden club, in the boomer club, in the single boomer club, in Shaboom, and so on and so on. And I think I know at least 2,000 people here in Oakland. I'm very experienced in management, and I'm experienced in project management as well. I believe that the strength for OVA, which has been taught by others here, is not really the board. The board is kind of a servant. You, the people, you come up with ideas. You see things that needs to be mended, and you see things that should be fixed, and new solutions to stuff, like they come from the communications committee. They're then being brought up to committee chairs, and projects are formulated from that, then sent to the board. The board then, the responsibility of the board, in my book, is to execute those projects if they make sense financially. Enough of that. I don't know if it's allergy or cold. I feel sick. My throat feels something's weird. I want to disclose at this time that I'm bipolar. This was discovered in 2002. This condition, however, is checked by my taking medication daily in annual follow-ups at Kaiser. I rarely miss work. In my last job at Guitar, I missed 2 days over 17 years. If you're like me, I promise to serve you by the following list of actions. I want to see some real changes in our management. We can do much better. We have to just be more streamlined. I think we have many good employers, but I also think we have some that are not so good. I want to see IT apps, applications, but today they're called APPS. Like on my cell phone or on my tablet here. They're apps that are 500 million available in the world, or more maybe. So we gotta get with it, because if we get with it, we can get by with it. An office that's smaller footprint, we can get by with fewer people, because people don't really need to go to the office. If you could order a ticket today, do you drive to San Francisco to the office? I don't think so. You get on your computer and you decide, I'm going to say that beat 27, and you pay it and go, you have your ticket. That's how we should do it. Enough of that. I could also attempt to tell you that I operate a little landscaping company. I'm not here to advertise, but I do operate IPM landscaping. I have about a dozen clients in a month, and I have a lot of fun. It was a hobby for my wife and me. Now it kind of pays my food bills and my entertainment. Can I speak for 2 more minutes? It'll be 1 minute. 2 weeks ago, I completed a lifelong course titled The Heat Booster. Professor Ashby challenged the class to name heroes and study them. We students discovered that real heroes, in order to become a hero, pass through a valley, a dark side, and at this, as Professor Ashby called it, my heroes are 4 Americans: Ben Franklin, Ulysses S. Grant, Harry Truman, and this one, Marie Antoinette. Okay, this was an extremely difficult childhood. She never met her father. He never saw her. She was in foster care for 7 years. She had a difficult husband, this guy, and a bipolar son who also has MS. But in her glory, Maria Antoinette, my best friend and wife for 51 years, earned a hero spot for all she did. For kids, for me, for her friends, for nature, and for humanity. She was brave to the very end, donating her body for research at UCSF. The last words for me were, I love you, be strong. I don't think she meant physically. I'm grateful that I live in Oakland, one of the choicest places on earth. I want to do my part and more to preserve it for another 950 years. That's not a typo, 950. It turns out that my hometown, right around this time, is celebrating its 950th year. It was founded in 960 through 970. Okay, so we have 950 more years to go. I just wanted to bring that to the attention of Sue, of Ed, and John, and all the other folks that work on the committee. Anyway, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Kevin. And now we're open to questions from the audience. You may ask a question directly to an individual or a question you would like answered briefly by each and every candidate. We have a microphone in the center aisle. Do we have anyone who wants to ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm Chuck Dunkel. I live on Oakleaf Drive. I would like to ask each of the candidates the following question. How many of the regularly scheduled 2012 OVA board meetings did you attend?
Ern, we'll start down at your end.
I would ask Chuck, would you repeat that question?
How many board meetings did you attend in 2012?
I attended 0. but I was involved very heavily with OCDC.
You got a mic in front of you.
I was involved heavily with OCDC, the SOS Trees thing, the Sierra Club, and trying to prevent PG&E from destroying our Sonoma forests, which they had planned to do a clear cut for some 39 miles, starting up at the geysers and going all the way to Lakeville. And so I had a lot on my plate. I did not get to any of the board meetings.
You?
I've been to a couple that I recall that for which there was business involved, which I was interested in. I think I stood in the back of the room for maybe one other, but not that much. I don't hope that doesn't look like I'm not interested in what Oakmont's doing. I mean, in the 14 years I've lived here, I was on the Meadow Creek Homeowner Association board for about 8 years and chair of it for most of those years. And I was involved with Norma and on its board for a couple of years too. So I haven't been a great attendee this last year either.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I attended 9 or 10 plus, I don't know, workshops. Not sure how many, 3 or 4, I think.
John?
Well, I haven't attended any board meetings such. I've been to a couple of the planning meetings. However, I have been quite busy the last quite a few years, along with the help of some of the gentlemen who are sitting in the room here tonight, and your Director of Emergency Communications supporting the COPE work that's been done here. And so I have been quite involved, but I haven't been to the board meetings.
Fran?
I have missed 2 meetings in the past year.
John?
I attended 10.
Bridget?
Yes, sir. My name is Bridget Molinari, and I have a question for the candidates. How do you feel about the decision by the OVA board to give committees the right to go into meetings without giving notice to the membership? Closed meetings, I mean. Thank you.
Well, we'll start at the other end this time, John.
Could you repeat the question?
We need a repeat of the question.
Okay. I had trouble.
Okay. One more time. How do you feel about the decision by the OVA board to give committees the right to meet in closed session without giving notice to the membership? Was that okay?
Thank you for the question, Bridget.
Yes.
I believe that the regularly scheduled meetings and any specifically scheduled meetings of an entire committee need to be announced and need to be open to participation. But I do believe a lot of the real work that is done by hands-on members of committees is in subgroups, looking at specific segments of a project that they may be working on. And I think as a practical matter, those have to be scheduled on short notice that matches individual schedules that are part of the subcommittee. And so a formal kind of legalistic public notification is impractical and really not in the best interests of the effective operation of our community. But I also believe if there's someone that is really interested that wants to be part of a subcommittee, they should make that known to the committee, and they, in turn, should be permitted to participate in those activities.
Fran?
I agree with John's statement just now. As I said before, I think the committees do a wonderful job here in Oakmont, and I expect more of them in the future. I enjoyed myself working on different committees, and I certainly would continue to do it.
Well, I think the previous 2 statements I would agree with completely, and rather than waste time restating it, I totally agree.
Yep.
Yes. I really think that whoever runs meetings had better follow the rules of the association. And that's it, that's it. There's no excuse to not follow the rules. We can't ask folks down, or up, if you will, to follow rules if we don't do it here.
I think Yeppy includes David Sterling when he talks about rules. And I think that what Bridget's question goes to is those situations where notice is obligated. And of course, there has to be study sessions and other subgroups that meet that may or may not have notice to you folks. But I think she's after those for which you have a right to participate. And I'm offended by the fact that they don't provide the proper notice under David Sterling. In fact, it goes further than that. It's not that we're not even maintaining minimum compliance. And even if we achieve minimum compliance, my goal would be to go beyond that. We don't have to look at David Sterling as the highest standard, but the floor. You know, we should do more to make this as transparent as possible, not less.
Herb?
Yes. I think that as far as the committee meetings and schedules are shown in the Oakmont News, and I think that the more participation by the Oakmonters and not be in this mode of complacency, because you people have a tremendous amount of talent and background. You can make a wonderful contribution to this community, and it is very satisfying.
But you have something to add.
Yes,
Go ahead.
I mean, I'm pretty serious about following rules. For instance, Mr. Booth will back me up. The so-called OCDC subcommittee, and there's some other people, including my own Wendy, they did something not quite legal the other day. They hired an architect without 3 bits, like Mr. Booth normally gets. They also got money appropriated without any vote from finance. That's not too cool, in my opinion. It was $22,500. Why do we, I think so often.
Yep, I'm going to have to rule you out of order. This is not the question, and this is not the time to bring subjects like that up. Next question, please.
My name is Bernard Lefson. My question is of each of the candidates. Do you believe in total insurance that cover all risks, or do you believe in prudent risk?
Let's start with Hugh Helm, please.
I'm not sure I understand the question, but I believe that we should buy insurance for everything for which there is possible coverage. It makes sense to pay for it. I mean, I don't know what the cost of insurance is, and I'm not sure quite what the underlying problem is that leads to that question. I don't know what a prudent risk is. If there's some assumption of the risk by this organization, I think there's no time and a place for that to be considered. It just depends upon what the risk is and what the alternative is in terms of the cost of insurance. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah.
My insurance prudence is to have high deductibles and as little insurance premium as possible. But I also want to listen to a very wise attorney.
John Felton.
Yeah, I think it's probably difficult to predict what a prudent risk is going to be. My experience in life is you guess and then you're wrong, and it could cost you a lot of money. But I think you really have to do a comprehensive study of that before you answer the question. I don't know, for example, are umbrella type policies available for our situation where there may be some particular things that have higher risk, but then other things don't, and you cover yourselves in all way. But I would be, I think I'd be out of line to give an answer without having information about what the situation is and without investigating it first. So I'm going to pass because I don't know the answer.
Brian.
Insurance is not my long shot, but I would say that any need for insurance for a group of people living together would be something that I indeed would support.
without further specifics about the kind of coverage, the kind of risk, and so forth, I can't offer an answer, so I'll pass.
Herb,
With regard to insurance,
microphone, please.
with regard to insurance, I can say that a year or so ago, I had a birthday party I held at West Rick. And ordinarily, insurance would be covered by the OVA organization. And I come to find out that that wasn't true. I was told that by the OVA office. So then I was able to check with my insurance company for my homeowner's insurance. And living in Meadowstone Homeowners Association, the homes there are in unmaintained. And so we buy our own homeowner's insurance. And it turns out my homeowner's insurance automatically covered everyone who came to my party, which there were 70 of them, because they were my guests. I haven't anything further to say than what you said, and Francis. I'll pass on to the next question.
I see somebody getting up. Frank, I've been waiting for you.
Well, it didn't take too long, did it? I hate to bend down, I got a bad back. I have heard from some of the candidates, Frank Barskins at 339 Bellhaven. I've heard some of the candidates mention the fact that they are willing to live within the budget, which is great. My problem is establishing the budget by the board. I lived there for 4 years, and every year our dues go up. Now you say it's only $1, but they're nickeling and diming us to death everywhere else. So I'd like to hear from the candidates how they feel about our dues, and without making a budget that increases our dues, how they would approach that issue.
Fran, we're going to start with you.
One of my concerns in agreeing to run for the board was indeed what our budget, the makeup of our budget. I too feel much as the speaker who just asked the question. I feel that the budget must be looked at, and a new evaluation of our activities and expenditures must be made. And it's something that I'm looking forward to doing.
John Felton.
Well, as much as I had a chance to look at the situation, as I mentioned earlier, I'm very much attuned to expenses and reaching into the pockets of each one of you. I think we have to take a very close look at our priorities. My experience has been, and I'll be quite frank about it, when decisions were made to beautify our entrance way on some years ago at Oakmont Drive off of Highway 12, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes here, but I'm always very honest to come out and say what I feel. I said, why are we spending money on that? What does that do for those of us living here? It's nice to have a nice looking entrance, but is that going to bring more people to Oakmont? Is it going to improve the values of our property?
Yes.
Is it, what? I don't know the answer to that. I could be very wrong, but those are the kinds of things that I like to look at very seriously before money is spent.
Yep.
Yes. I would like to make a correction to the question. I have been on the budget and done a good bit of the budget work for the last 2 years. In 12, in 11 we rose by 50%. We took the dues up by 50 cents per month. Last year, we did not even increase that. We held the line. And in my opinion, we ought to hold the line right now. I think that there's plenty of money in our available to us. Don't forget, we have more homeowners. I think we have 37 more homeowners in the orchard. That brings in a good bit of change. I guess I could figure it out right now. But let's say two persons per house, say you have 30, that's 60 times 550, that's 30,000. So we increase our income by just having more folks here. I don't think we need to raise the budget this year nor next year. And I'll fight to keep it in line.
You?
A budget's a projection. It's just an attempt to try to ascertain how much you intend to spend in various categories of expenses for the following year, and you do it on an annual basis. So you can do it on a longer term, but usually it's annual. And you do your best to stay within it because that's prudent. I'm a fiscal conservative by any means, and I think my record shows that I certainly have done my best when I've been involved in financial matters to keep spending low. So anything we can do to keep our dues down, I'll do. And I think we need to tighten our belts when necessary. And I'm concerned about expenditures that aren't necessary that are being made by this association. And I would take a very strict eye toward taking a fresh look at those if I'm elected.
Ernest?
Yeah, except for, minor changes with the result of inflationary costs. I think we have enough programs in place here to take care of capital replacement and provide for it, and I don't think that there should be any significant change within the budget.
John Taylor?
I believe that the process of developing a budget is an activity that it's important for as many residents to participate in as possible, and I would really urge everyone who has an interest in that process to participate in the Finance Committee meetings. I think a stronger effort could be made to begin the development of the many segments of the budget at an earlier date than we have the past few years. And that would give an opportunity for people to not only comment on the operating budget, but to also have input into the asset replacement fund process. There are some legal responsibilities that we have relative to asset replacement that are stipulated by law, and because we as residents want to properly maintain our facilities for long term. But I don't think any of us wants to see money wasted. And so if you can involve yourself in the decisions that go into putting together a budget, then I think we can reach a common objective that both keeps our finances in line, keeps our dues from rising inappropriately, and moving ahead by maintaining the kind of staff services that we want and the kind of facilities that we want to maintain.
John Felton, you had an addition?
I just thought of one other thing I'd like to mention and kind of relate to everybody. Each one of us has our own budget at home. And it boils down into two parts, really. The basic budgeting is things you have to pay for. Your health insurance, your food, your whatever, all those things you must pay for. And after that, you have what we call discretionary income, which say, well, I have a little bit left. What do I want to do with that? Do I want to go on a vacation, or do I need to keep it in case something goes wrong? And I don't think we're that much different here. We've got some significant expenses coming up that they've been budgeted for. We're talking about maybe having to replace some structures and doing some real serious work. And those things aren't optional. There may be different ways of looking at doing them, but then on the discretionary side, I think we really have to make sure that we don't do anything that's really not important.
Thank you. Any other questions out there? I see another standee.
Yep, one more. I'm Nancy Caldwell. We live on Mountain Vista Court. I'm curious if all of you are aware of how many hours it takes to be on the board. And one other question, because I know it's exceedingly time consuming, and I certainly thank anybody who's willing to do it. And one other totally different question is, how do you feel about posting what's going on the website, the OVA website, that we can read online? Totally different question, but I think they're both important.
We'll start with the UPA in this one.
Let's start with your second question, which is just up my alley. I totally agree that I totally agree that you should be able to read everything that we have done on the website. I don't see any restrictions in any governance that says that we can't do that. I mean, we're just talking. The web is just kind of another way. It's a faster newspaper, right? And you can actually feed us back your comments. So that should happen. I kind of forgot the first question, but it had to do with how much time do I think it's going to take here? I don't know. I hope not more than half my time, because my business will go down if it's any more. But I'm going to relinquish most of my committee work, committee volunteer work, so that I can have more time to be here, and I have to be here. And I think you're right. It's all the time. It's not just once a month.
John Felton.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I thought about that a lot. First of all, I wasn't recruited. No, Wally, none of the people in the committee or anybody called me and said, we need help. We need a candidate to run here. I read it in the newspaper, our own newspaper, and my first thought is, if there's 4,400 people here and they need one more, there's something wrong here. I must be out of my mind. There's a reason people aren't doing this, you know. You come down here to get beat up. Let's face it, in any large group, there's about 10% of the people to do all the work. There's about 10% of the people would sit at the bottom and do nothing but complain and cause trouble, and everybody in the middle wanders around what's happening. Isn't that true? Have your hands up if it's true, you know. I really believe that. So someone says, John, you're going to do what? Are you crazy? And I said, well, I really thought about it, and I made a number of phone calls, and I talked to existing board members and other people that had been on the board before, and said, what's involved here? I still want to have my own life. And I decided, no, this is important enough that I'm going to put the time in, whatever it takes to do it. At the same time, I want to be smart about it, and I'd like to try to, in my own way, if you feel fit to elect me to the board, is to try to do things a little smarter on the board, so we don't have our fingers in everything, and delegate more, and and trust the people that we've, in the different committees and such, to do their own thing and report back to us without having to look over their shoulders, and that cuts back on our workload tremendously, and overall, you end up with a much more healthy organization, and you end up with people on the board that don't feel they're burned out and want to bail out as soon as they can. So, yes, I've thought about it a lot, and I'm prepared. Thank you.
Time is very precious to me, I know. I do volunteer at Memorial Hospital and have for the past 24 years. And if I had to give up something, I think I would give up the hospital rather than give up working with the people here in Oakmont. I do have 2 dachshunds that take a lot of my time. I have a garden that takes a lot of my time, and I have 3 daughters that I thought when they reached a certain age they would sort of let go, but they too take a lot of time. But I'm not worried. I can adjust the time to handle the work that has to be done here.
John.
I believe I have enough experience in working with the community to have a clear understanding of the time that's involved. But I also believe as a board, we can manage the kind of activities that we are involved in and the amount of time those take in a better fashion. My seatmate here talked about her experience on the Palo Alto City Council and on the Planning Commission here in Santa Rosa. And one of the things that those organizations do is build an agenda that matches the time available to do it. And some things have to wait to get on the agenda because we just can't let subjects push us around. We need to manage the situation to move effectively on behalf of the community, but with full interest of what toll it's taking on the individuals that are trying to do the job.
Herb.
Yeah. Fortunately for me, the SOS trees thing with PG&E is dwindling down to where it's pretty much moved out of the Oakmont area and over into Sonoma Mountain and on down toward Lakeville. The assignment I had been given was part of my chores out of OCDC, and I think it's time that maybe if I'm elected, I would resign from OCDC, and there would not be any impact with what was ongoing with the SOS tree.
You?
That was the question of how much time this is going to take was the hardest problem I faced in making a decision. And I too decided that I'll have to cut back other things. And from what I've been able to tell, it looks like it's going to require 10 or 20 hours a week. I really don't know, but I'm prepared to do whatever necessary. As far as the posting things on the net, I mean, that's part of why I'm running is transparency. So yes, I think we should post the minutes. We should post all the information we can on the internet. We shouldn't hold back. We should err on the side of disclosure.
Yeah, John.
I'm much more in favor of posting facts than I am in some of the blogging I read.
John, no statements. Anyone else? When you hear the starting gun, not yet. You may rush the food table. But before we do that, I want to make a couple comments. One is that I have attended, I think, all but 2 candidates' nights in the 17 years I've been here. And tonight I see more unfamiliar faces than I have in the past 6 or 7 years. And that's a good thing. More people interested. I'm also happy with the lack of questions because I think our candidates have given you a pretty good idea about what they're about. And I think you might have noticed there's a lot of experience here. They are all willing to put it into practice. And I would have a hard time advising anybody who to vote for. It's a good group. I'm happy we were able to put it together. And as I look out at some of the faces here, we have a lot of people that I've known for years who have never run or served on the board of directors, but they have put in countless hours on standing committees, on ad hoc committees, on organizations that do good within Oakmont. And I want to particularly thank them for the time they put in and encourage the rest of you to at least start out by becoming active on our standing committees or an ad hoc committee that is formed for a specific subject that may interest you or that you have expertise in. It's what we have to have. The board cannot do all of the grunt work that is necessary to run this community. We have to have standing committees with good, interested, intelligent people. So we need you. If there is nothing further, feel free for the next 45 minutes to badger the candidates down on the floor, but no fisticuffs. Thank you.